Megan Collins spent 5 years being invisible, not because she chose to be, but because Adam Blackwell made sure of it. In the glittering halls of Blackwell Media in New York City, she was the genius behind every successful campaign, the mind that turned failing brands into cultural phenomena, the strategist who could read audiences like poetry. But her name never appeared on a single award. Her face never graced a single company photo. Adam made certain that while Megan built his empire, the world only saw him. And when she dared to ask why, when she finally found the courage to demand recognition, he looked at her with those cold steel eyes and said the words that would haunt her for months. "Let's be honest, Megan. You're brilliant, but you're not the face anyone wants to see representing this company." That night, she discovered he had been building an executive team without her, replacing her quietly with people who fit his aesthetic vision. But Adam Blackwell made one fatal mistake. He underestimated the woman he tried to erase. This is the story of how Megan Collins went from invisible to unforgettable. The November rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Blackwell Media headquarters, 43 stories above Manhattan's Midtown district. Megan Collins stood in her small office, barely larger than a storage closet, staring at the presentation that had taken her 6 weeks to perfect. Outside her door, the open-plan workspace buzzed with creative energy, designers huddled around standing desks, copywriters throwing ideas across the minimalist space that Adam had redesigned last spring to project innovation and forward thinking. But Megan's office told a different story. It was tucked away at the end of a corridor, past the restrooms, where clients never ventured and visiting executives never noticed. The space was barely 10 feet by 8 feet, with a single window that overlooked an air shaft rather than the spectacular city views the senior team enjoyed. A desk, a chair, a filing cabinet, and a wilting plant that she kept forgetting to water. This was where magic happened, even if nobody knew it. At 29 years old, Megan had the kind of mind that could see 3 steps ahead of market trends, could predict what audiences would crave before they knew it themselves. She had a master's degree in behavioral psychology from Columbia University and had spent 4 years at a boutique marketing firm before Adam Blackwell himself recruited her with promises that still echoed in her memory. "You're going to revolutionize this industry, Megan. Together, we're going to change everything." That was 5 years ago. 5 years of 70-hour weeks. 5 years of campaigns that won industry awards, all presented by Adam with that megawatt smile that made investors open their checkbooks. 5 years of watching her strategies generate millions in revenue while her salary remained frozen at her starting rate because there was always next quarter for that promotion Adam kept promising. Megan pulled her cardigan tighter around herself. The heating system never quite reached her corner of the building. She had mentioned it twice to facilities, but somehow the work orders always got lost, just like her requests for updated equipment, just like her suggestions in meetings that Adam would dismiss, only to present as his own brilliant insights 3 days later. She glanced at the digital clock on her computer. 10:30 in the morning. The presentation for the Meridian Luxury Hotels account was scheduled for 11. This was the big one, the campaign that could redefine boutique hotel marketing for the entire Eastern Seaboard. Megan had poured everything into it. Consumer research, psychographic profiling, a complete digital strategy that would transform how Meridian connected with the emerging generation of luxury travelers who valued authenticity over opulence. The presentation file sat on the shared drive, uploaded at 6 this morning after another sleepless night, refining every detail. Adam would download it, review it quickly, then present it as his own vision. That was how it always worked. Megan told herself she didn't mind. The work mattered. The success mattered. Personal recognition was just ego, right? But lately, something had shifted inside her. Maybe it was turning 29 and realizing 30 was approaching with terrifying speed. Maybe it was attending her college roommate's wedding last month and watching everyone celebrate a woman who had built something visible, something undeniable. Or maybe it was simply exhaustion, the bone-deep weariness of being brilliant in the shadows. Her phone buzzed. A text from Sienna Park, one of the junior designers who had become something close to a friend in recent months. Conference Room B. Adam wants everyone there for the Meridian pitch. He specifically said you should attend. Megan felt her stomach tighten. Adam never invited her to client presentations. She was the engine, not the showroom. What had changed? She grabbed her tablet and the printed backup copies of the presentation materials, though she knew Adam would never acknowledge she had created them. Her reflection caught in the dark computer screen as she stood. Medium height, with features that she had long ago accepted as ordinary. Not ugly, not beautiful, just unremarkable. Her hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore minimal makeup because who would notice anyway? The professional dress she had chosen that morning was comfortable and appropriate, selected more for function than fashion. The walk to Conference Room B felt longer than usual. The hallway opened into the main workspace, where sunlight poured through massive windows, illuminating the creative chaos of Blackwell Media's rising stars. Megan recognized most of them. The ones Adam had hired in the past 18 months, all young, all effortlessly stylish, all possessing the kind of polished charisma that photographed well for the company's social media presence. She noticed something else too. They were all conventionally attractive by industry standards. Sharp cheekbones, perfect skin, bodies that suggested expensive gym memberships and personal trainers. Had it always been this obvious, or was she only now seeing the pattern? Conference Room B was Blackwell Media's premier client presentation space. Walnut panels, leather chairs, a presentation system that cost more than Megan's annual salary. Through the glass walls, she could see Adam already holding court, his presence filling the room the way it always did. At 38, Adam Blackwell was everything corporate America wanted its leaders to be. Tall, commanding, with silver threading through his dark hair in exactly the right places to suggest wisdom rather than age. His suits were custom-tailored on Savile Row, his watches Swiss, his confidence absolute. Next to him stood the Meridian executives. 3 men in expensive business attire and 1 woman who carried herself with the unmistakable bearing of someone accustomed to luxury. That would be Victoria Ashford, Meridian's chief brand officer. Megan had researched her extensively. Former fashion magazine editor, Harvard MBA, known for firing agencies that didn't meet her exacting standards. Megan slipped into the room quietly, taking a seat at the far end of the table where the support staff usually gathered. Sienna was already there, offering a small, encouraging smile. Around the table sat Adam's core team. Marcus, the creative director who mostly delegated work to others. Priya, the account director whose main skill seemed to be laughing at Adam's jokes. Jonathan, the strategy lead who had precisely 3 strategies that he recycled endlessly. And then there was Celeste Laurent. Celeste had joined Blackwell Media 6 months ago as Adam's executive assistant, though her role seemed to encompass far more than scheduling and correspondence. She sat immediately to Adam's right, her posture perfect, her appearance flawless. French by birth, raised in Monaco, educated at prestigious European institutions, Celeste embodied the kind of effortless elegance that made everyone else in the room seem pedestrian. She had the kind of beauty that opened doors, started conversations, created opportunities. Megan had watched Adam's behavior change after Celeste arrived. Longer meetings behind closed doors, more business dinners that extended into late evenings. a softness in his voice when he spoke to her that he used with no one else. "Excellent, we're all here," Adam announced, his voice carrying that natural authority that made people instinctively pay attention. "Victoria, gentlemen, thank you for trusting Blackwell Media with this opportunity. What we're about to show you represents the future of luxury hospitality marketing." He clicked to the first slide. Megan's work, her research, her insights. The presentation unfolded exactly as she had designed it, each element building on the last, creating a narrative that transformed Meridian from just another hotel chain into a curator of transformative travel experiences. Adam presented brilliantly. She had to admit that. He understood how to read the room, when to pause for effect, how to modulate his voice to emphasize key points. He made eye contact with each Meridian executive, drawing them into the vision, Megan's vision. "The data shows us something fascinating," Adam continued, gesturing to a chart that Megan had spent days perfecting. "Today's luxury travelers aren't impressed by thread counts and marble bathrooms. They're seeking authenticity, connection, moments that become part of their personal narrative." Victoria Ashford leaned forward, clearly engaged. "This is exceptional work, Adam. The consumer insights alone are worth their weight in gold. Who led the research on this?" There was a pause. A moment where Adam could have acknowledged Megan, where he could have gestured to the far end of the table and said her name, given her even a fraction of the credit she deserved. Instead, he smiled that charming smile and said, "We have an incredibly talented team here at Blackwell Media. Everyone contributes to our success." The moment passed. Victoria nodded, satisfied with the non-answer, and the presentation continued. Megan felt something crack inside her chest. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't sudden. It was more like the final fracture in something that had been breaking for a very long time. The presentation concluded to enthusiastic approval. Victoria Ashford stood, shaking Adam's hand with genuine warmth. "This is exactly what Meridian needs. Fresh, insightful, bold. Let's move forward with the contract." Champagne appeared, as it always did when Adam closed a major deal. Megan watched the celebration from her corner of the room, invisible even in a space this small. She should feel proud. This campaign would be spectacular. It would drive real results for Meridian. That mattered, didn't it? But as she watched Adam laugh with Victoria, as she saw Celeste touch his arm with casual intimacy, as she observed the team congratulate each other for work they hadn't done, Megan realized something with devastating clarity. She had been erasing herself. Long before Adam started doing it to her, she had been making herself smaller, quieter, more convenient. Telling herself that the work was enough, that recognition didn't matter, that being seen was just vanity. She had been lying to herself. "Megan?" Adam's voice cut through her thoughts. He was looking at her now, really looking at her, and there was something in his expression she couldn't quite read. "Could you stay for a moment? Everyone else, thank you. Excellent work today." The team filed out, still riding the high of the successful presentation. Sienna gave Megan a concerned look before leaving, clearly picking up on something in the atmosphere, and then it was just Megan and Adam in the beautiful conference room, separated by 12 feet of polished walnut and 5 years of accumulated resentment that only one of them fully recognized. "I wanted to talk to you about something," Adam began, his tone careful in a way that immediately put Megan on edge. "You've been with Blackwell Media for 5 years now. You've been an asset to the company. An asset, not a person, not a valued team member, an asset. I've been thinking about the future direction of the firm," he continued. "We're expanding, bringing in new talent, repositioning our brand for the next phase of growth." Megan waited, her hands folded in her lap, her face carefully neutral. "I'm building an executive team," Adam said. People who will represent Blackwell Media at the highest levels, C-suite positions, real leadership authority. For one brief, foolish moment, Megan felt hope bloom in her chest. Was he finally going to promote her, give her the title and recognition she had earned 10 times over? "I wanted you to hear this from me directly," Adam continued. "Marcus is being promoted to Chief Creative Officer. Priya is becoming our Chief Client Officer, and Celeste will be our new Chief Strategy Officer." The words hit like physical blows. Chief Strategy Officer, the position that should have been Megan's. The role that matched exactly what she'd been doing for 5 years, without the title or the compensation. "I see," Megan managed to say, her voice somehow steady despite the earthquake happening inside her. "You understand, I'm sure," Adam said, and now his tone shifted to something almost apologetic, which somehow made it worse. "These roles require a certain presence. Client-facing positions demand people who can embody the Blackwell Media brand. Image matters in this industry, Megan. It's not fair, but it's reality." And there it was, the truth that had always been lurking beneath every overlooked contribution, every ignored achievement, every promised promotion that never materialized. She wasn't the right image. "Let's be honest, Megan," Adam continued, and she would remember these words for the rest of her life. "You're brilliant, possibly the most talented strategist I've ever worked with. But you're not the face anyone wants to see representing this company at industry events, in press photos, at client dinners. You're the engine, not the showroom, and there's value in that, real value." The rain continued to hammer against the windows. Somewhere in the building, people were celebrating. Megan could hear champagne corks popping, laughter echoing down hallways. "I'm increasing your salary," Adam offered, as if money could bandage what he had just done. 15% raise. "And you'll have a new title, Senior Strategic Analyst. It reflects the importance of your work. Senior Strategic Analyst. A lateral move disguised as progress. A title that would keep her exactly where she was, doing the work while others took the credit, the promotions, the visibility." Megan stood. Her legs felt unsteady, but she managed it. "Thank you for your honesty, Adam," she said quietly. "I appreciate knowing exactly where I stand." Something flickered across his face. Guilt, maybe. Or perhaps just relief that she wasn't making a scene. "You're too valuable to lose, Megan. I hope you understand that." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak further, and walked out of the conference room with her head high and her heart shattered. She didn't go back to her small office. She couldn't bear to sit in that cramped space and pretend everything was fine. Instead, she found herself in the women's restroom, the one on the executive floor that was always empty because the senior team was predominantly male. Megan stared at her reflection in the mirror, really looked at herself for the first time in years. She saw what Adam saw. Someone ordinary, someone who blended into backgrounds, someone forgettable. And then she saw something else. She saw 5 years of silencing herself, 5 years of making herself smaller to make him bigger. 5 years of accepting crumbs and calling it gratitude. She saw someone who had forgotten her own worth. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Hi, Megan, this is Victoria Ashford from Meridian. Adam gave me your contact information. I wanted to reach out personally. I've been in this industry long enough to recognize real talent when I see it. That presentation had your fingerprints all over it. Would you be interested in having coffee tomorrow? I have a proposition that might interest you." Megan read the message 3 times, her heart beginning to beat faster. And for the first time in 5 years, she smiled a smile that had nothing to do with being convenient or agreeable or grateful for the opportunity to be invisible. The engine was about to become the entire showroom. The coffee shop Victoria chose was in the West Village, far from Midtown's corporate corridor where Megan might run into anyone from Blackwell Media. It was the kind of place where art students hunched over laptops and writers scribbled in weathered notebooks, where the espresso machine hissed and gurgled with authentic Italian temperament, and the November afternoon light filtered through windows that hadn't been cleaned in at least a decade. Megan arrived 15 minutes early, a habit born from years of making sure she was never the one keeping anyone waiting. She ordered a cappuccino and claimed a small table near the back, her mind racing through possibilities of what Victoria Ashford might want to discuss. Victoria swept in exactly on time, commanding attention without seeming to try. She wore a cashmere coat and carried herself with the assurance of someone who had never doubted her right to take up space in the world. She spotted Megan immediately and crossed the cafe with purposeful strides. "Megan," she said warmly, extending her hand, "thank you for meeting me on short notice." "Of course," Megan replied, shaking her hand and noting the firm, confident grip. "I have to admit, I'm curious about what you wanted to discuss." Victoria ordered an Americano and settled into her chair with the kind of elegant economy of movement that suggested years of finishing school or perhaps just excellent posture training. "I'm going to be direct," Victoria began, her dark eyes sharp and assessing. "I've been in luxury hospitality marketing for 18 years. I've worked with dozens of agencies, hundreds of strategists, and yesterday, in that conference room, I watched Adam Blackwell present the most innovative campaign I've seen in 5 years. She paused, taking a sip of her coffee. "I also watched you. The way you reacted to certain slides before he even spoke about them. The micro-expressions when he explained concepts in ways that were slightly different from how they should have been explained. The fact that you had printed materials that matched the presentation perfectly, suggesting intimate familiarity with every element." Megan felt her cheeks warm. "I contributed to the project, yes." "You created it," Victoria corrected gently but firmly. "The entire thing. The research methodology alone bears the hallmarks of someone with advanced training in behavioral psychology. The consumer segmentation is too nuanced to have come from Adam Blackwell, whose previous campaigns have been competent but conventional. This was revolutionary. And revolutions don't come from committee work or team brainstorming. They come from individual brilliance." "I'm not sure what you're asking me," Megan said carefully, years of trained caution making her wary of speaking against Adam. "I'm not asking you anything yet," Victoria replied. "I'm telling you what I see. I see a woman who is brilliant at her craft being systematically erased, and I'm here to offer you an alternative." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with possibility. "Meridian isn't just hiring Blackwell Media for one campaign," Victoria continued. "We're looking for a long-term strategic partner. But here's the thing, Megan. I don't want to work with Adam Blackwell. I want to work with you." Megan's breath caught. "I don't understand. The contract is with Blackwell Media." "The contract hasn't been signed yet," Victoria said, a slight smile playing at her lips. "And even if it were, contracts can be renegotiated. What I'm proposing is this. Leave Blackwell Media and establish your own strategic consulting firm. Meridian will be your first client. I'll guarantee you a 2-year contract worth $1.2 million annually." The numbers made Megan's head spin. $1.2 million. Annually. For 2 years. "Why?" Megan asked. "Why would you do this?" "Because I believe in investing in actual talent rather than paying for someone else's ego," Victoria said simply. "Because the hotel industry is changing faster than most people realize, and I need someone who understands that at a fundamental level. And because, frankly, watching Adam Blackwell take credit for your work made me angry in a way that reminded me why I got into this business in the first place." She leaned forward slightly, I've been the woman in the room whose ideas got attributed to men. I've been the one dismissed as just the pretty face, while my intelligence got overlooked. I've fought my way to the C-suite of a luxury hotel empire, and I didn't do it by being nice or accepting the limitations other people tried to place on me. I did it by being undeniable. And you, Megan Collins, have the potential to be undeniable. Megan felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them back. This is incredibly generous. But I have no infrastructure, no team, no office, no client base beyond what you're offering. You'll have Meridian as your cornerstone client, which will give you credibility to attract others, Victoria countered. As for infrastructure, you can build that as you grow. Start lean. Use freelancers. Focus on the work that only you can do. Besides, I suspect you'll find that once word gets out about who was really behind the Blackwell Media magic, you won't lack for clients. It was tempting, dangerously, dizzyingly tempting. I need to think about it, Megan said, though her heart was already making decisions her mind hadn't caught up to yet. Of course, Victoria agreed. Take the rest of the week. But Megan, I need you to understand something. This offer expires in 5 days. If you turn it down, I'll sign with Blackwell Media and work with whatever team Adam assembles. But it won't be the same, and you'll have missed your moment. They talked for another 30 minutes about logistics, about Victoria's vision for Meridian, about the changing landscape of luxury hospitality. And with every passing minute, Megan felt something awakening inside her. Not just ambition, though there was that, but something deeper, a sense of her own worth that she had allowed to atrophy over 5 years of making herself small. When they parted ways on the street corner, Victoria touched Megan's arm lightly. "Whatever you decide, stop hiding your brilliance," she said. "The world needs what you have to offer. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise." Megan walked back toward Midtown, her mind churning. The rational part of her brain catalogued all the risks. She had no business experience running her own firm. What if she failed? What if Victoria's offer was the only one she ever got? What if she burned this bridge with Adam and found herself unemployed and unemployable? But another voice was growing louder, a voice that asked different questions. What if she succeeded? What if this was exactly the opportunity she had been too afraid to create for herself? What if being invisible at Blackwell Media was actually the biggest risk of all, the risk of wasting her talent, her time, her potential? She was so lost in thought that she almost collided with someone on the sidewalk. "Megan, watch where you're going." She looked up to find Celeste Laurent standing in front of her, shopping bags from expensive boutiques hanging from her arms. Even in casual weekend mode, Celeste looked like she had stepped out of a European fashion magazine. "Sorry," Megan muttered. "I wasn't paying attention." "Clearly," Celeste said, though her tone wasn't unkind. There was actually something almost sympathetic in her expression. "Are you all right? You look upset." "I'm fine," Megan replied automatically. Celeste tilted her head, studying her. "You're a terrible liar, but I suppose that's better than being a good one. At least you're honest about your dishonesty." Despite everything, Megan almost smiled. "That's a very convoluted way of putting it." "French education," Celeste said with a shrug. "We learn to make simple things complicated, and complicated things sound simple. Listen, I don't know what Adam said to you yesterday, but whatever it was, don't let it destroy you." Megan stiffened. "What makes you think Adam said anything to me?" "Because I know Adam," Celeste said quietly. "Better than I wish I did, honestly. He has a talent for making people feel both essential and worthless at the same time. It's his superpower." "You're his chief strategy officer," Megan said, unable to keep the bitterness completely out of her voice. "You must think pretty highly of him." "I think he's brilliant at business and terrible at seeing people as people," Celeste replied. Those aren't mutually exclusive observations. And for what it's worth, I didn't ask for that title. He offered it, and I accepted because I'm practical enough to know that opportunities like that don't come often for women in this industry. But I'm not deluded enough to think I earned it the way you've earned every achievement Adam has stolen from you. The bluntness of it shocked Megan into silence. I know what you do, Celeste continued. Everyone in the office knows. The assistants know. The junior staff knows. The only people who pretend not to know are the ones benefiting from the fiction, and I'm benefiting from it now too, which makes me complicit. I'm aware of that. I just wanted you to know that some of us see you, even if we're not brave enough to say it publicly. Why are you telling me this? Megan asked. Celeste's expression softened. Because I've been erased too. Different ways, different reasons, but the experience is universal enough. And because I have a feeling you're about to make a very important decision, and I want you to know that whatever you choose, some of us will understand. Before Megan could respond, Celeste's phone chimed. She glanced at it and sighed. Adam wants me to meet him at his apartment to review some contracts, even on a Saturday. She looked back at Megan. Be brave, Megan Collins. The world needs more women who are brave. She walked away, leaving Megan standing on the sidewalk, everything she thought she understood about Blackwell Media shifting into new configurations. The weekend passed in a haze of spreadsheets and research. Megan holed up in her small studio apartment in Queens and did something she had never done before. She calculated her actual value. She went through 5 years of projects, tallying the revenue each campaign had generated for Blackwell Media clients. She documented every award, every press mention, every client renewal. She tracked the company's growth trajectory and mapped it against her employment timeline. The numbers were staggering. Campaigns she had created or significantly contributed to had generated over $47 million in client revenue. The Meridian account alone would bring in at least $3 million annually if the partnership succeeded. And what had she received in return? A salary that was respectable, but nowhere near executive compensation, a title that suggested mid-level competence rather than strategic leadership. An office that was literally a converted storage room. By Sunday evening, she had made her decision. Monday morning, she arrived at Blackwell Media at her usual time, 6:30, 90 minutes before most of the staff. She went straight to Adam's office. His assistant wasn't in yet, which was perfect. She knocked on his door. He was already there, of course, reviewing something on his laptop. Adam prided himself on being the first to arrive and the last to leave, proof of his commitment to excellence. Megan, he said, looking up with surprise, what brings you here so early? I wanted to talk to you privately, she said, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. Of course. Sit down. She remained standing. I'm resigning, she said simply. Effective immediately. I'll send you a formal letter by end of day, but I wanted to tell you in person. Adam's expression shifted through several emotions too quickly to identify. What? Megan, if this is about Thursday, I thought we had reached an understanding. We did reach an understanding, Megan interrupted, her voice calm and clear. I understand exactly what you think of me and my value to this company, and I've decided I'm worth more than that. You can't just quit, Adam said, standing now, his corporate charm replaced by something sharper. You have projects in progress, clients depending on you, contractual obligations. I checked my employment contract, Megan replied. I'm an at-will employee with no non-compete clause because you never considered me important enough to be a competitive threat. My obligations extend to finishing out this work week if you want the transition to be smooth, or ending today if you'd prefer to be vindictive about it. This is about money, isn't it? Adam said, his tone shifting to patronizing. "You want a better raise? I can work with that. 20%. That's the best I can do, but you're worth it." "It's not about money," Megan said, though that wasn't entirely true. "It's about being seen, being credited, being valued as more than just an engine that produces work for other people to claim." "I never claimed your work," Adam protested. "I presented it, yes, but that's what leaders do. They represent their teams." "You erased me," Megan said, and her voice finally cracked slightly. "Systematically, deliberately, completely, and the worst part is that I let you. I convinced myself that the work mattered more than recognition, that being invisible was noble somehow. But it's not. It's just self-destruction with better PR." Adam's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake. You think you can survive out there on your own? This industry is brutal, Megan. You need infrastructure, reputation, connections. You need a face that clients want to work with. I've been protecting you from that reality." "No," Megan said quietly. "You've been protecting yourself from the reality that I'm better at this than you are." The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. "That's enough," Adam said coldly. "If you want to quit, fine. You're right about the contract. I can't stop you, but don't expect a recommendation. Don't expect me to speak kindly about you when future employers call. And don't expect to ever work with any Blackwell Media clients again." "I don't need your recommendation," Megan replied. "I have 5 years of results that speak for themselves. And as for your clients, I suspect some of them will have questions about who actually created the work you've been taking credit for." She turned to leave, but Adam's voice stopped her. "You think you're going to waltz into some executive position somewhere and everyone will suddenly see your brilliance?" His tone was cruel now, the veneer completely stripped away. "Let me give you a dose of reality, Megan. You're not executive material. You're not the person who gets the corner office. You're the person who makes coffee for the person in the corner office while doing all the actual work. That's not cruelty. It's just truth. Some people are meant to lead, and some people are meant to support. And no amount of resentment will change which category you fall into." Megan felt the words like acid, burning away the last remnants of whatever loyalty or affection she had once felt for this man. "You're probably right," she said softly. "I'm not executive material for Blackwell Media. But that says more about Blackwell Media's standards than it does about me." She walked out of his office, past the now-arriving assistant who looked startled to see her emerging from Adam's office so early, past the slowly filling workspace, and straight to her small office where she packed 5 years of her life into 2 cardboard boxes. The plant came with her. Everything else could stay. On her way out, she ran into Sienna in the hallway. "You're leaving," Sienna said, seeing the boxes. "It wasn't a question. I'm leaving," Megan confirmed, "because of what happened Thursday. Because of what's been happening for 5 years, and I finally woke up to it." Sienna bit her lip. "I don't blame you, but I'm going to miss you. You're the only person here who actually cares about making good work instead of making good impressions." "You care," Megan said gently. "Don't let this place convince you that image matters more than substance. And when you get tired of being undervalued, give me a call. I have a feeling I'm going to need help from people I can trust." She gave Sienna her personal email address, hugged her quickly, and walked out of Blackwell Media for the last time. The November air was crisp and cold as she stepped onto the street, boxes balanced awkwardly in her arms. She felt terrified and exhilarated in equal measure. She had just blown up the only professional security she had known for half a decade. She had walked away from a steady paycheck, health insurance, and the safety of being small and invisible, and she felt more alive than she had in years. Her phone buzzed, a text from Victoria Ashford. "I heard through the grapevine that you gave notice. Does this mean what I hope it means?" Megan set down her boxes and typed a response with shaking hands. "Let's talk about that contract." Within 30 seconds, her phone was ringing. "Tell me you're serious," Victoria said without preamble. "I'm serious," Megan replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm terrified, but I'm serious." "Good," Victoria said, and Megan could hear the smile in her voice. "Terror means you understand the stakes. Now let's turn that terror into triumph. Can you meet me tomorrow? We have a company to build." That night, alone in her apartment with Chinese takeout and a legal pad, Megan sketched out the framework for what would become Collins Strategic Group. She had no office, no staff, no website, and no clients beyond Victoria's promised contract, but she had 5 years of suppressed brilliance ready to explode into the world. And she had finally learned that being invisible wasn't humility. It was just another form of disappearing. She was done disappearing. The next 3 months were a masterclass in controlled chaos. Megan learned more about business operations, legal structures and financial management in 12 weeks than she had in 4 years of graduate school. She filed incorporation papers for Collins Strategic Group on a Wednesday in December, signed the Meridian contract on Friday, and spent Saturday having a panic attack in her bathroom when the full weight of what she had done finally crashed down on her. She had no safety net, no backup plan, no corporate structure to hide behind if she failed. But she also had something she had never possessed at Blackwell Media: complete ownership of her work, her vision, and her future. Victoria proved to be everything she had promised and more. The Meridian contract wasn't just generous in its financial terms, it was structured to give Megan the freedom to build her business properly. The payment schedule front-loaded enough capital for her to lease a small office space in the Flatiron district, invest in proper technology, and hire her first employee. That employee was Sienna Park. Megan had texted her 2 weeks after leaving Blackwell Media, half expecting Sienna to politely decline. Instead, Sienna responded within minutes. "I gave my notice today. When can I start?" With Sienna handling design and visual strategy, Megan could focus on what she did best: understanding human behavior and translating that understanding into marketing that actually connected with people. The Meridian campaign launched in late January, and the response was immediate and overwhelming. Victoria had been right about the market being ready for a new approach to luxury hospitality. The campaign generated a 27% increase in bookings within the first month, drove social media engagement through the roof, and earned features in 3 major hospitality industry publications. And this time, Megan's name was on every single piece of coverage. Megan Collins, founder of boutique strategic firm Collins Strategic Group, is revolutionizing how luxury brands connect with contemporary travelers, read one article in a prestigious marketing journal. It included her photo, a professional headshot Sienna had insisted she invest in, where Megan looked confident and capable and nothing like the invisible woman who had hidden in a storage room office at Blackwell Media. The second client came in February. A sustainable fashion brand that had heard about the Meridian work and wanted someone who understood purpose-driven marketing. Then a tech startup looking to humanize their brand presence. Then a boutique hotel group in London that Victoria recommended personally. By March, Collins Strategic Group had 6 active clients and a waiting list. Megan worked 16-hour days and loved almost every minute of it. She hired 2 more staff members, a brilliant strategist named James, who had been languishing at a big agency, and a data analyst named Priya, who could see patterns in consumer behavior that bordered on prophetic. She was building something real, something sustainable, something entirely her own. But building something visible meant becoming visible herself, and that meant Adam Blackwell finally noticed her. The first shot came in a trade publication interview. Adam was asked about the talent exodus from Blackwell Media. Megan wasn't the only one who had left. 3 other senior staff had resigned in the months following her departure. "Every agency experiences turnover," Adam said smoothly. "The industry is competitive, but I've found that the people who leave often discover that the grass isn't greener. It's just different grass, and they still don't have the skills to maintain it. We wish them well, but Blackwell Media's success speaks for itself." The dig was subtle but unmistakable. Former employees lacked skills. They couldn't maintain their own success. They were better off in supporting roles. Megan read the interview and felt her stomach clench with old, familiar anxiety. The fear of being inadequate, the worry that maybe Adam was right, maybe she had gotten lucky, maybe her success was temporary and fragile. But then she looked at her office, at her team working together on a campaign that was genuinely innovative, at the contract renewals and new client proposals stacking up, and the anxiety transformed into something sharper and more useful: anger. She called Victoria. "Did you see Adam's interview in Marketing Today?" Megan asked without preamble. "I did," Victoria replied calmly. "He's scared. He doesn't sound scared, he sounds contemptuous." "Those are the same thing for men like Adam Blackwell," Victoria said. "You've taken his best work, which was actually your work, and proven you don't need him. You've built a successful company in 3 months that's getting more positive press than he's had all year. Of course he's scared. So he's doing what scared men always do, trying to make you smaller so he can feel bigger." "So what do I do?" "You do nothing," Victoria said firmly. "Don't engage. Don't respond. Don't give him ammunition. Just keep building. Success is the best revenge, and you're already succeeding. Let him scream into the void." Megan took the advice. She didn't respond to the interview. She focused on her work, but Adam wasn't finished. In April, Megan was invited to speak on a panel at the International Marketing Summit in Manhattan, one of the industry's premier events. The topic was innovation in luxury brand marketing, and she was thrilled to be included alongside executives from major agencies and household name brands. The day before the panel, she received an email from the event organizers. "Dear Ms. Collins, we regret to inform you that due to unforeseen scheduling conflicts, we need to restructure the Innovation in Luxury Brand Marketing panel. Your participation is no longer required, though we hope you'll attend as an audience member. We apologize for any inconvenience." Megan stared at the email, her chest tight. Unforeseen scheduling conflicts, the corporate phrase for something unsaid and probably unsavory. She called the event coordinator, a woman named Rebecca, whom she had spoken with several times during the planning process. "Rebecca, I just received an email about the panel tomorrow. Can you tell me what changed?" There was a long, uncomfortable pause. "Megan, I'm really sorry about this," Rebecca said finally, her voice genuinely apologetic. "It wasn't my decision." "Whose decision was it?" Another pause. "Blackwell Media is one of our largest sponsors," Rebecca said quietly. "Adam Blackwell sits on our advisory board. He made it clear that if you were on that panel, his company would withdraw their sponsorship and he would pull his keynote speech. We couldn't afford to lose that support." The words hit like a physical blow. "So he had me removed," Megan said flatly. "I pushed back," Rebecca insisted. "I told the board that your work with Meridian made you one of the most relevant voices for this particular panel. But Adam was adamant. He said having you present would create an uncomfortable conflict of interest, given your history with his firm." "And the board believed that?" "The board believed the numbers on his sponsorship check," Rebecca said, her disgust barely concealed. "I'm sorry, Megan. If it were up to me, you'd be on that panel, and Adam Blackwell could take his sponsorship and his ego somewhere else. But it's not up to me." Megan thanked her for the honesty and ended the call. Then she sat in her office, staring at the Manhattan skyline through her window, feeling something shift inside her. Adam wasn't just dismissing her anymore. He was actively working to diminish her, to limit her platform, to keep her invisible even after she had made herself seen. Sienna knocked on her door. "I heard. I'm so sorry." "Don't be sorry," Megan said, her voice harder than Sienna had ever heard it. "Be ready to work." "Ready for what?" Megan turned from the window, and there was something fierce in her expression now, something that had been sleeping for too long. "Ready to show the entire industry who actually creates the work Adam Blackwell has been taking credit for. I'm done playing nice. I'm done staying quiet to avoid making waves. He wants a conflict, he's about to get one." Over the next 2 weeks, Megan did something she had been too cautious, too afraid, too conditioned to invisibility to do before. She told the truth. She reached out to journalists who covered the marketing industry. She provided documentation, emails, project files, strategy documents, all with her name attached, all predating the campaigns Blackwell Media had won awards for. She didn't editorialize. She didn't trash Adam. She simply presented facts and let the journalists draw their own conclusions. The first article appeared in Adweek. "The Ghost Strategist: How Megan Collins Built Blackwell Media's Success from the Shadows." It was meticulously researched, featuring interviews with former Blackwell Media employees who confirmed that Megan had created the majority of the agency's award-winning work over the past 5 years. The second article was in Forbes. "From Invisible to Unstoppable: The Rise of Collins Strategic Group." It detailed her journey from underpaid analyst to successful entrepreneur, positioning her story within the larger context of women whose work gets attributed to male colleagues. The third article was in the New York Times business section. "Redefining Success: How One Woman is Changing the Conversation About Credit and Visibility in Corporate America." Each article was carefully fact-checked. Each included Megan's response when asked about Adam Blackwell. "I have nothing but gratitude for what I learned during my time at Blackwell Media, but I'm proud of the work I created there, and I'm even more proud of what I'm building now." Professional, gracious, undeniable. The response from the industry was swift and polarizing. Some people praised her courage. Others whispered that she was bitter, vindictive, burning bridges she might need later. But the clients started calling. Brands that had worked with Blackwell Media in the past wanted to know if they could work with Megan directly. New companies that had never considered Collins Strategic Group suddenly found her number. Within 3 weeks of the first article, Megan had to turn down projects because she couldn't scale fast enough to meet demand. And then came the invitation that changed everything. Marketing World, the industry's most prestigious publication, was launching their annual 40 Under 40 issue, celebrating young innovators reshaping the industry. Megan received a call from their editor-in-chief personally. "We want you on the cover," he said simply. "Your story embodies everything this issue represents: disruption, innovation, courage, and the future of marketing. Will you do it?" Megan said yes before she could talk herself out of it. The photo shoot was in early May at Collins Strategic Group's Flatiron office. The photographer was a woman named Katerina who specialized in corporate portraiture but approached it with an artist's eye. "I want to capture who you really are," Katerina said as she set up lighting. "Not some manufactured version of corporate success. I want people to see the woman who was brave enough to bet on herself." The resulting images were stunning. Megan in her office, surrounded by her team's work. Megan at her desk, mid-thought, completely focused. Megan looking directly at the camera with an expression that was confident, intelligent, and unapologetically present. The issue hit stands in late May. The cover showed Megan with the headline, The New Face of Marketing Innovation, How Megan Collins is Rewriting the Rules. Inside, a 6-page feature detailed her journey, her philosophy, her success with Collins Strategic Group, and her vision for an industry that valued substance over image. It included testimonials from Victoria Ashford, from clients, from her team. It presented Megan not as a victim of corporate injustice, but as an architect of her own remarkable success. Within 24 hours of the issue's release, Megan's inbox was flooded. Speaking invitations, partnership proposals, media requests. And one email that made her stomach drop. It was from Celeste Laurent. "Megan, I need to talk to you. It's urgent. Please call me." Megan hesitated, then dialed Celeste's number. "Thank you for calling," Celeste said immediately. "I know we're not exactly friends, but I needed to warn you. Adam saw the Marketing World cover. He's not handling it well." "I'm not surprised," Megan said carefully. "No, you don't understand," Celeste insisted. "He's beyond angry. He's obsessed. He spent 2 hours in his office this morning making phone calls. I don't know exactly what he's planning, but I've worked with him long enough to know when he's in destruction mode, and you're his target." "What can he do?" Megan asked, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "I have my own company, my own clients. He has no power over me anymore." "Men like Adam always have power," Celeste said quietly. "Money, connections, willingness to fight dirty. Please, just be careful. Watch your back. And if anything strange happens, clients suddenly backing out, contracts being challenged, negative stories appearing in the press, you'll know where it's coming from." They talked for a few more minutes, and when Megan hung up, she found herself staring at that Marketing World cover on her desk, the new face of marketing innovation. She had spent 5 years being invisible, 3 months building something visible. And now she was on the cover of the industry's most influential publication. She had become undeniable, and Adam Blackwell was going to do everything in his power to deny her anyway. The war she had been trying to avoid was here. But this time, Megan wasn't the invisible woman in the storage room office. This time, she was ready to fight. The attack came exactly 1 week after the Marketing World cover hit stands. Megan was in her office reviewing a campaign proposal for a luxury automotive client when her phone rang. It was Marcus Reed, her lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense attorney who had helped her structure Collins Strategic Group and had been handling the company's legal needs. "We have a problem," Marcus said without preamble. "Blackwell Media just filed a lawsuit against you and Collins Strategic Group." Megan felt the floor drop out from under her. "On what grounds?" "Breach of contract, theft of intellectual property, and tortious interference with business relationships." Marcus's voice was grim. "It's a kitchen sink approach. They're claiming you stole proprietary methodologies, client lists, and strategic frameworks during your employment and used them to build your competing business." "That's insane," Megan said, her voice rising. "Everything I've built is based on my own work. Work I created while I was at Blackwell Media, yes, but work that I never signed away rights to because Adam never valued it enough to put IP protections in my employment contract." "I know," Marcus said, "and we'll prove that. But legal battles take time and money. This is clearly designed to drain your resources and damage your reputation. Adam Blackwell is betting that the mere existence of a lawsuit will make clients nervous about working with you." He was right. Within 2 hours of the lawsuit becoming public knowledge, Megan received 3 calls from potential clients asking to postpone their decision-making until the legal situation resolved itself. One existing client requested a meeting to discuss concerns about the stability of the partnership. Sienna appeared in her doorway, her face pale. "Have you seen Twitter?" Megan hadn't. She pulled up her feed and immediately wished she hadn't. Adam Blackwell had posted a statement: "Protecting intellectual property is essential in our industry. When individuals violate the trust and contracts that make collaboration possible, we must take action to defend our company's innovations and our clients' interests. Blackwell Media will always fight for what's right." The comments were split. Some people defended Adam, praising him for protecting his business. Others saw through the corporate speak and called it what it was: retaliation against a woman who had dared to succeed on her own terms. But the damage was done. The narrative was now contaminated with doubt. Was Megan's success legitimate, or had she built it on stolen work? That night, alone in her apartment, Megan allowed herself 30 minutes to fall apart. She cried, she raged, she questioned every decision that had led her to this moment. She wondered if Adam had been right all along, if she was meant to stay invisible, if trying to shine had been the ultimate act of hubris. And then she dried her tears, made herself a cup of tea, and got back to work. If Adam wanted a fight, she would give him one. But she would fight smart. The first call she made was to Victoria Ashford. "I assume you've heard," Megan said. "I have," Victoria replied. "And I have 3 things to say. First, Meridian's contract with you stands. We don't abandon partners because they're being bullied by insecure men. Second, my legal team is at your disposal if you need additional resources. And third, this is going to get worse before it gets better. Are you prepared for that?" "I don't know," Megan admitted. "But I don't have a choice. If I back down now, I prove that his strategy works. I prove that women can be silenced with money and fear and legal pressure." "Good," Victoria said. "Because I didn't invest in you because I thought you'd be easy to work with. I invested in you because I thought you'd be impossible to break. Don't prove me wrong." The second call was to Rebecca from the Marketing Summit, the event coordinator who had been forced to remove Megan from the panel. "Rebecca, I need a favor," Megan said, "and I need you to trust me." "I'm listening," Rebecca replied cautiously. "You have the keynote speaker slot at next month's summit opening up because Adam Blackwell just withdrew," Megan said. It was a gamble, but she had been following the summit's social media and noticed the announcement minutes earlier. "I want to fill it." There was a long silence. "Megan, the board will never agree to that, not with the lawsuit." "The board will agree if you present it as the biggest story of the conference," Megan countered. Woman entrepreneur responds to industry titan's legal attack with grace, professionalism, and a keynote speech about resilience. The press coverage alone will be worth 10 times your sponsorship revenue. And I promise you, my speech will be the most talked about moment of the summit. Another pause. "If I pitch this and the board says yes, you have to deliver," Rebecca warned. "You can't use the keynote to attack Adam. You can't make it about the lawsuit. It has to be professional, inspiring, and focused on the future of the industry." "I promise," Megan said. "This isn't about Adam Blackwell. This is about showing every person in that audience that being underestimated is not the same as being defeated." Rebecca pitched it. The board said yes. The Marketing Summit keynote was scheduled for June 15th, 3 weeks away. Megan had 3 weeks to prepare the speech of her life. She worked on it obsessively, writing and rewriting, practicing delivery, refining every word. She wasn't going to attack Adam directly. That would be petty and counterproductive. Instead, she was going to tell her story, the real story, and she was going to make it impossible for anyone in that audience to not see themselves in it. Meanwhile, the lawsuit ground forward. Marcus filed a response that systematically demolished every claim Blackwell Media made. Discovery requests revealed that Adam's employment contracts with Meghan had indeed lacked IP protections. Email records showed that the strategic frameworks he claimed as proprietary were actually Meghan's documented methodologies that she had developed and explicitly copyrighted in her own name during her employment. The case was weak, and Marcus was confident they would win. But winning might take 6 months or more, and the damage to Meghan's reputation could be permanent, unless she could change the narrative. The day of the marketing summit arrived with perfect June weather. Clear skies, comfortable temperatures, the kind of day that New York City saved for important occasions. Meghan stood backstage at the Javits Center, listening to the introduction she had helped Rebecca craft. Her hands were shaking, her heart was pounding. In 90 seconds, she would step onto that stage in front of 1,200 marketing professionals, industry leaders, and journalists from every major publication. And somewhere in that audience, though she couldn't see him from backstage, was Adam Blackwell. She had spotted him in the lobby when she arrived. He looked older than she remembered, or perhaps just more worn. The silver in his hair seemed less distinguished and more tired. He had seen her too, and for a moment their eyes met across the crowded space. He had looked at her with such contempt, such certainty that she would fail, that she almost faltered. Almost. "Ladies and gentlemen," Rebecca's voice echoed through the hall, "please welcome to the stage the founder and CEO of Collins Strategic Group, keynote speaker Meghan Collins." Meghan walked onto the stage. The applause was polite, but not overwhelming. She could feel the audience's curiosity, their uncertainty. Half of them were probably wondering if she had stolen her way to success. The other half were wondering if she would use this platform to create drama. She was going to disappoint both groups. Meghan stood at the center of the stage, waiting for the applause to fade, making eye contact with individuals throughout the audience, establishing presence, claiming space. "5 years ago," she began, her voice clear and strong, "I sat in an office the size of a storage closet and created a marketing campaign that would generate $47 million in client revenue. My name appeared nowhere on that work. I won no awards for it. I received no promotion, no recognition, no public acknowledgement. I was invisible." She paused, letting the words settle. "And I accepted that invisibility because I had been taught that women like me, women who were intelligent but not charismatic, talented but not charming, brilliant but not beautiful by conventional standards, women like me were supposed to be grateful for the opportunity to contribute from the shadows." Meghan could see people leaning forward now, the energy in the room shifting. "I'm not here to tell you a story about victimhood," she continued. "I'm here to tell you a story about awakening. But the moment I realized that hiding my brilliance wasn't humility, it was self-destruction, about the terrifying, exhilarating decision to become visible, to claim credit for my work, to build something entirely my own, even though I had no guarantee of success." She told them about leaving Blackwell Media, about Victoria Ashford's offer, about the panic attack in her bathroom and the moment she almost called Adam to beg for her job back. About hiring her first employee and signing her first contract and wondering if she had made the biggest mistake of her life. "But here's what I learned," Meghan said, her voice growing stronger. "Success is not about being the loudest voice in the room or the most conventionally attractive face in the boardroom. Success is about being undeniable. And you become undeniable by doing work that speaks for itself, by building relationships based on actual value rather than performative charm, by showing up authentically even when that authenticity doesn't fit the expected image." She talked about the challenges of building Collins Strategic Group, the clients who took chances on her, the team who believed in her vision, the moments of doubt and the decisions to push forward anyway. 3 months ago, I appeared on the cover of Marketing World magazine," Megan said, and some people in this industry celebrated that achievement, but others questioned it. They suggested I had somehow stolen my way to success, that my visibility was unearned, that I should return to the shadows where women like me belong. She could feel the tension in the room now. Everyone knew she was talking about Adam, even though she hadn't named him. But here's the truth about visibility, Megan continued. When you spend years being invisible, and then you suddenly become seen, it threatens people who benefited from your invisibility. It disrupts systems that were designed to keep certain people in the background. It challenges the comfortable fiction that success equals charisma, that leadership requires a specific look, that innovation comes from those who present well rather than those who think deeply. Megan moved across the stage, her presence commanding now. So yes, my visibility has made some people uncomfortable. My success has challenged some narratives, and my refusal to apologize for either has resulted in pushback that I'm still navigating. But I would rather fight for my right to be seen than peacefully accept invisibility. I would rather defend my work publicly than watch others claim it quietly. I would rather risk failure while being authentic than guarantee survival by being small. She could see people nodding now, hands reaching for phones to take notes, journalists in the press section typing furiously. I'm standing here today not because I'm extraordinary, Megan said, her voice softer now, but still carrying to every corner of the hall. I'm standing here because I'm strategic. I'm standing here because I finally valued myself enough to build something worthy of my talents. I'm standing here because one person believed in me enough to take a chance, and I was brave enough to take that chance seriously. She paused, letting her gaze sweep the entire audience. And I'm standing here to tell every person in this room who has ever felt invisible, overlooked, underestimated, or erased, your work matters, your voice matters, your presence matters. Don't let anyone convince you that being small is a virtue. Don't let anyone steal your achievements or diminish your contributions. Don't let anyone make you believe that the price of participation is your own erasure. The audience was completely silent now, hanging on every word. The marketing industry is changing, Megan concluded. We're moving toward authenticity, toward diverse voices, toward valuing substance over surface. But that change doesn't happen automatically. It happens when people like us, people who have been told we're not the right image, not the right face, not the right type, when we refuse to stay invisible, when we build, when we create, when we show up fully and unapologetically and demand to be recognized for the value we bring. She smiled then, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. Thank you for seeing me today. Thank you for listening. And thank you for building a future where brilliance doesn't have to hide in storage room offices anymore. The applause started slowly, then built like a wave. People stood. The applause became a roar. Megan stood on that stage, overwhelmed by the response, barely holding back tears. She had done it. She had told her truth. She had been seen. And in the third row, Adam Blackwell sat perfectly still, his face unreadable, while everyone around him celebrated the woman he had tried to erase. After the speech, Megan was mobbed by people wanting to talk to her, share their own stories, offer partnerships and opportunities. Journalists requested interviews. Conference attendees asked for selfies. It was overwhelming and exhausting and absolutely exhilarating. If you're rooting for her like I am, show it by hitting that like button. And if you want to see more mini novels like this, subscribe to the channel because there's so much more coming your way. But the moment that mattered most came 3 hours later, when Megan was finally escaping to a quiet corner of the convention center to catch her breath. Victoria Ashford found her there. That, Victoria said simply, was magnificent. I was so nervous I thought I might throw up on stage, Megan admitted. You didn't show it. You looked like you owned that room. Victoria sat down next to her. You know what's going to happen now, right? Tell me. Adam Blackwell's lawsuit is going to quietly disappear. He'll claim victory somehow, spin it as protecting his interests, but he'll drop it. Because you just made yourself too visible, too sympathetic, too undeniably successful for his narrative to work. He needed you to look stolen. You looked brilliant instead. Victoria was right. Within a week, Blackwell Media's lawyers filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit with prejudice, meaning it could never be refiled. Adam released a statement about how the matter had been resolved to mutual satisfaction, though Meghan had agreed to nothing and conceded nothing. The press saw through it. Blackwell Media backs down from lawsuit against rising star Megan Collins, read one headline. Industry titan retreats after failed attempt to silence competitor, read another. But Meghan barely noticed the headlines. She was too busy building. Collins' strategic group tripled in size by August. She moved to a larger office space. She hired 10 more employees, all people who had been overlooked, undervalued, or erased at larger agencies. She created a company culture built on recognition, transparency, and the radical belief that talent deserved credit. And she kept winning. By September, Collins' strategic group had been profiled in every major business publication. Meghan had spoken at 6 conferences. She had turned down more projects than she accepted, not because she lacked ambition, but because she refused to sacrifice quality for growth. She had become exactly what Adam Blackwell said was impossible. She had become a leader, not because she fit an image, not because she performed charisma, not because she looked like what corporate America traditionally valued in its executives, but because she was undeniably, irrefutably, brilliantly good at what she did. And everyone could finally see it. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning in late November, exactly 1 year after Meghan had walked out of Blackwell Media with her belongings in 2 cardboard boxes and her future uncertain. Ms. Collins, this is Jennifer Martinez from Time Magazine's editorial board. Do you have a moment? Meghan had learned to recognize the tone of voice that preceded life-changing news. This was it. Of course, she said, setting down the strategy brief she had been reviewing. Time is finalizing our annual Person of the Year issue, Jennifer continued, and our business section always runs a parallel feature, Woman of the Year. We'd like to feature you. Meghan's breath caught. Woman of the Year, Time Magazine. We've been following your story since the Marketing World cover, Jennifer explained. But it's not just your professional success that interests us. It's what you represent. The courage to claim your own value, the resilience to build something remarkable despite systematic erasure, the decision to create opportunity rather than accept limitation. Your story resonates far beyond the marketing industry, Ms. Collins. It speaks to millions of women who have been told they're not enough simply because they don't fit prescribed images of success. The feature would run in the December issue. Photography session next week. Cover potential if the interview went well. Meghan said yes. The Time magazine offices occupied several floors of a gleaming tower in Lower Manhattan, overlooking the Hudson River. Meghan arrived for her interview on a crisp December morning, the city dressed in early winter light that made everything look sharp and purposeful. The journalist assigned to her story was a woman named Patricia Caldwell, a veteran reporter who had covered business and culture for 3 decades. She met Meghan in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the Statue of Liberty in the distance. "Before we start," Patricia said, settling into her chair with a recorder and notebook, "I want to be transparent about my approach. I've read everything about you, the Blackwell Media story, the lawsuit, the keynote speech, the rapid growth of Collins' strategic group. But I'm not interested in writing a puff piece about a successful entrepreneur. I want to understand who you are beneath the success story, so I'm going to ask hard questions. Fair? Fair, Megan agreed. Patricia clicked on her recorder. Let's start at the beginning. 5 years ago, you accepted a position at Blackwell Media, knowing you were brilliant at what you did. Why did you accept being invisible for so long? Megan thought carefully before answering. Because I confused self-sacrifice with virtue, she said slowly. I had been conditioned my entire life to believe that women who sought recognition were vain, that ambition was unseemly, that the highest calling was to support others' success rather than build my own, and Adam Blackwell provided a perfect framework for that conditioning. He made me feel essential while keeping me hidden. He praised my intelligence while ensuring I stayed in the shadows. It was sophisticated manipulation disguised as mentorship. When did you realize what was happening? I don't know that there was one moment, Megan admitted. It was more like a series of small awakenings that accumulated into a clarity I couldn't ignore anymore. Watching him present my work, seeing him promote people who looked right rather than people who performed well, attending my college roommate's wedding and realizing I had built nothing visible, nothing I could point to and say, I made that. And finally, the conversation where he told me explicitly that I wasn't the face anyone wanted representing the company. How did that make you feel? Devastated, Megan said honestly. And then angry. And then, finally, free. Because he had said out loud what I had been refusing to acknowledge, that I would never advance at Blackwell Media not because I lacked talent, but because I lacked the appearance of talent. And once I accepted that reality, I could stop trying to earn something that was never going to be offered. They talked for 2 hours about building Collins' strategic group, about the lawsuit, about the moments of doubt and the decisions to push forward, about the cost of visibility and the greater cost of remaining invisible. You've been celebrated extensively in the past 6 months, Patricia said, but you've also faced criticism. Some people suggest you're bitter about your time at Blackwell Media, that you've built your success on grievance rather than innovation. How do you respond to that? Megan had heard these criticisms. They stung every time. I think, she said carefully, that when women speak truthfully about their experiences of erasure or discrimination, it's often labeled as bitterness. If I were a man who left a company and started a successful competitor, I'd be celebrated as entrepreneurial, ambitious, visionary. But because I'm a woman who dared to say, I created this work and deserve credit for it, I'm bitter. That double standard is exactly the problem I'm trying to address. Do you ever regret how public you've been about your story? No, Megan said immediately, because staying silent would have protected Adam Blackwell's narrative at the expense of my truth. And I refuse to sacrifice my authenticity to make powerful men comfortable anymore. Patricia smiled slightly. That's going to be my pull quote. The interview concluded, and Megan moved to the photography studio they had set up on another floor. The photographer was the same woman, Katerina, who had shot the Marketing World cover. We meet again, Katerina said warmly. But this time I think we show a different side of you. The first shoot was about emerging. This one is about arriving. The resulting photographs were stunning. Megan in the Collins Strategic Group office, surrounded by her team. Megan in profile against the New York skyline, looking contemplative and powerful. Megan laughing genuinely at something Sienna had said, capturing joy rather than just professional success. The Time magazine issue hit newsstands 2 weeks later. The business section cover showed Megan in her office, looking directly at the camera with quiet confidence. The headline read, Woman of the Year, Megan Collins and the Revolution of Recognition. Inside, Patricia's feature was everything Megan had hoped for, nuanced, honest, celebrating her success while acknowledging the systemic barriers she had overcome. It included interviews with Victoria Ashford, with Megan's team members, with clients who spoke about the impact of her work. And it included one particularly powerful paragraph near the end. Collins represents a fundamental shift in how we understand professional success. In an industry and a culture that has traditionally valued style over substance, charisma over competence, image over innovation, she has proven that brilliance doesn't require conventional beauty, that leadership doesn't demand performative charm, and that visibility is a right to be claimed rather than a privilege to be granted. She is not an exception. She is evidence of how many exceptional women remain invisible, not because they lack talent, but because systems were designed to keep them in the shadows. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within 24 hours, Megan's social media following grew by 50,000. Her email inbox filled with messages from women sharing their own stories of erasure and invisibility. Major media outlets requested interviews. The Today Show wanted her for their morning segment. Harvard Business School invited her to speak to their MBA students. Collins Strategic Group's waiting list for new clients extended into the following year. But the moment that mattered most to Megan came 3 days after the Time magazine feature published. She received a handwritten letter. The return address was from Celeste Laurent. Dear Megan, I'm writing to tell you something I should have said months ago. I'm sorry. I accepted the Chief Strategy Officer position at Blackwell Media, knowing it should have been yours. I told myself I was just being practical, that someone would take it if I didn't, that you had already left, so it didn't matter. But those were excuses. I watched Adam Blackwell diminish you for years. I saw what he was doing, and I said nothing because speaking up would have cost me opportunities. I benefited from your erasure, and I'm ashamed of that. You asked me once why I was telling you about Adam's retaliation plans. The truth is that watching you become visible, truly, undeniably visible, made me confront my own invisibility. Not the kind Adam imposed on you, but the kind I imposed on myself. The invisibility of moral compromise, of accepting benefits I knew were tainted, of being complicit in someone else's erasure. I resigned from Blackwell Media last week. I'm not sure what comes next, but I know I can't stay at a company that succeeds by diminishing its most talented people. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that your courage to become visible has inspired others to examine how they've stayed invisible in ways that mattered. Wishing you continued success, Celeste. Megan read the letter twice, then called Celeste. I got your letter, Megan said when Celeste answered. I meant every word, Celeste replied, her voice quiet. I know you did, and I appreciate your honesty. Megan paused. Are you looking for work? There was a long silence. Yes, Celeste admitted, but Megan, I can't ask you for a job after what I did. You're not asking, I'm offering. Collins Strategic Group is expanding into European markets. I need someone who understands luxury brand positioning in that context, who has the connections you've built, and who has learned from watching what happens when talent gets erased. Interested. You're serious, Celeste said, her voice thick with emotion. Completely serious. You made mistakes, you owned them, you changed your behavior. That's more than most people manage. So yes, I'm serious. Send me your resume. Celeste joined Collins Strategic Group in January, leading their European expansion. Her connections and expertise proved invaluable, and her gratitude translated into fierce loyalty to the company's values of recognition and transparency. By spring, Collins Strategic Group had offices in New York, London, and Barcelona. The team had grown to 35 employees. Annual revenue exceeded $8 million. Industry awards lined the office walls, all with Meghan's name properly attached. But the moment of true arrival came in June at the Marketing Summit, the same conference where Meghan had given her keynote speech the previous year. She was invited back, this time not as a keynote speaker, but to receive the conference's Lifetime Achievement Award at 30 years old for demonstrating extraordinary innovation, ethical leadership, and transformative impact on the marketing industry. Meghan stood on that stage again, holding a crystal trophy that reflected stage lights into rainbow patterns, looking out at an audience that now included her entire team, her clients, and journalists from every major publication. And in the front row, looking older and smaller than she remembered, sat Adam Blackwell. Their eyes met. A year ago, his gaze had held contempt and certainty of her failure. Now it held something else, not quite respect, but perhaps acceptance, acknowledgement. The recognition that he had lost whatever game he thought he was playing. Meghan's acceptance speech was brief. A year ago, I stood on this stage and told you about my journey from invisible to undeniable. Today, I'm standing here to tell you that the journey doesn't end. Becoming visible is not a destination. It's a daily practice of showing up authentically, claiming your value, and building systems that recognize everyone's contributions rather than only celebrating those who fit prescribed images of success. She looked directly at the young women scattered throughout the audience. If you're sitting in a storage room office doing brilliant work that someone else is claiming, know this: your brilliance doesn't require their permission to exist. You are not an engine that exists to power someone else's showroom. You are the entire vehicle. Build your own road, drive at your own speed, and never, ever let anyone convince you that your value depends on their recognition. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, after the congratulations and the photos and the champagne, Meghan found herself alone in a quiet corner of the venue, looking out at the Manhattan skyline as the sun set over New Jersey. Victoria Ashford appeared beside her, 2 glasses of champagne in hand, and offered one to Meghan. "You did it," Victoria said simply. "We did it," Meghan corrected. "You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You gave me the opportunity that made all of this possible." "I gave you a contract," Victoria replied. "You did everything else. The building, the creating, the becoming. That was all you, Meghan." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the city transform from day to night, lights beginning to sparkle across the urban landscape. "Do you know what I'm proudest of?" Meghan said eventually. "Tell me." "It's not the revenue or the awards or the magazine covers. It's the emails I get from women who say they left toxic workplaces because my story gave them courage. The young strategists who negotiate for credit because they saw me demand recognition. The mothers who went back to their careers because they realized hiding their brilliance wasn't protecting their families. It was teaching their daughters to hide too." Meghan smiled, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I thought I was just trying to save myself when I left Blackwell Media. I didn't realize I would end up helping save others too." "That's leadership," Victoria said. "Real leadership, not the performative kind that demands loyalty and offers nothing in return. The kind that creates paths for others to follow. The kind that makes the journey easier for the next woman who finds herself invisible and decides she deserves to be seen." A young woman approached them tentatively. She looked to be in her mid-20s, dressed in conference attire, holding a program from the event. "Miss Collins, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but I wanted to tell you something." "Please," Meghan said warmly. "I'm not interrupting anything important." "I work at a major agency," the young woman said, her voice shaking slightly, "and for the past 2 years I've been doing exactly what you described. Brilliant work that my boss presents as his own. I kept telling myself it didn't matter, that the work was enough, that recognition was just ego. But hearing your speech last year, reading about your journey, seeing you receive this award tonight, you made me realize I've been lying to myself. She took a deep breath. I gave my notice this morning. I'm terrified. I don't have another job lined up. I don't have your confidence or your connections. But I know I can't keep erasing myself. So I wanted to thank you for showing me that becoming visible is worth the risk. Megan looked at this young woman who reminded her so much of herself a year ago, brilliant, uncertain, standing at the edge of a decision that would change everything. You're going to be fine, Megan said gently, better than fine. You're going to be remarkable, and when you doubt yourself, remember this: every woman who has ever chosen visibility over invisibility has walked through the same fear you're feeling right now. You're not alone in this. She pulled out a business card. Email me. I can't promise I'll have a position available, but I can promise I'll help you find your way. Women who are brave enough to bet on themselves deserve support. The young woman took the card with shaking hands, thanked them both, and walked away with her head a little higher than when she had approached. Victoria raised her champagne glass. To visibility, she said. To visibility, Megan echoed, clinking her glass against Victoria's, and to every woman brave enough to demand it. That night, Megan returned to her apartment. No longer the cramped studio in Queens, but a beautiful 2-bedroom in the West Village with actual light and space and room to breathe. She changed into comfortable clothes, made herself tea, and sat by the window overlooking the tree-lined street. She thought about the journey, about the woman she had been, brilliant but invisible, talented but erased, essential but unrecognized. About the moment everything changed, when pain finally exceeded fear and she chose herself over safety. She thought about Adam Blackwell, and she felt something surprising. Not anger, not resentment, but something close to gratitude. Not for how he had treated her, but for being honest enough about his cruelty to force her awakening. Some people spend entire careers being slowly diminished. Adam had been unsubtle enough to make his erasure obvious, and in that obviousness he had accidentally set her free. Megan pulled out her laptop and opened a new document. She'd been thinking about writing a book. Not a memoir exactly, but something more practical, a guide for women navigating industries designed to keep them invisible, strategies for claiming credit, methods for building confidence. Ways to recognize and escape systematic erasure before it destroys your sense of self-worth. She titled the document, The Visibility Project, a guide to becoming undeniable. And she began to write. Outside her window, New York City continued its endless motion. Millions of people pursuing their dreams, fighting their battles, building their futures. Among them, countless women doing brilliant work in storage room offices, in corners of conference rooms, in shadows they had been taught to accept. Megan couldn't save all of them, but she could tell them the truth. Invisibility is not humility. Erasure is not collaboration, and claiming your value is not selfishness, it's survival. She had been mocked for her looks, she had been dismissed for her appearance. She had been erased systematically and deliberately by a man who benefited from her brilliance while denying her recognition. But she had survived it. More than survived. She had transformed it. And now, the same industry that had tried to make her invisible had declared her Woman of the Year, not because she had changed who she was, but because she had finally let the world see who she had always been. Brilliant, resilient, undeniable, and free.